Please be aware that this recording contains mention of sexual assault.
Hi, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's nice to see you.
You're welcome. It's so nice to see you, and I miss you.
I miss you too.
You look comfy in your home office there, though.
I am. Yeah, I like the lighting. It's very warm.
It is. It's nice and warm. Is it freezing in America right now?
It's cold. Yeah, I can't go outside. I was sitting out earlier today with an iced coffee and my fingers were so cold.
Ooh, why the iced coffee though?
It was a lavender latte.
Oh,
It was
nice.
so nice. Yeah. Went bougie. It was great.
That is very bougie. Well, it's like 11 a.m. here now, and I've got the aircon on, and I've had it on since 9. It's that hot.
Oh, because it's so hot.
Well, would you like to start by telling people a little bit about what you do, and then I'll just get into some questions?
Perfect. Yep. Hi, everyone. My name is Riordan. I'm an electronic singer-songwriter and producer that lives and studies and works in America, but I'm from Australia. I just released a self-produced and written album, and yeah,
and it's really good.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. No, seriously, everybody listening to this, please listen to Al's album. It's called No, and it's incredible. And Al and I went to school together, and so she's a dear friend, and I'm so happy to have you on.
I know. Oh, it's so nice to see you. It's been
I know.
It
has been so long because you can't come back here. So
no.
Be good when those borders reopen.
Yes. And when flight prices go down, it'll be...
Oh, Well, I would love to start off by, if you could actually just talk to us a little bit about your latest album, No. What it's about and what it means to you, and then I'll ask some more specific questions.
Okay, yeah, for sure. So No is an album that I started producing in early 2019 and writing. It's a project that I'm really proud of because I did everything myself, which is almost, now that I look back on it, was a bit too much, but I'm really proud of all the art and the music and everything. It surrounds the subject of me being assaulted when I was over here studying in America. So it was a really heartfelt, I kind of want to say, or just something that was really close to me and that I didn't really want other people to touch because I didn't think that they would understand. And it actually ended up being a good thing because it forced me to go into a role where I made a whole album by myself from the very beginnings of the writing to the mixing and the producing and everything. So it tells a story from the beginning to the end, and it's a mix of like Bon Iver electronic weird sounds to like, I don't know, Missy Higgins or Casey Musgraves or something. So it's something that I'm really proud of, and yeah, I like it a lot. I listen to it quite a bit sometimes.
I love that you listen to your own album. Good for you.
Yeah. Well, you put so many hours into it that it's like, I don't know. I like my own music. It's nice. So I haven't listened to it in a while, but it was something that I really was proud of. So I would like chuck it on when I wanted to like feel good.
Good for you. I have my own art on my wall.
Perfect. You should, because you spent so many hours on it, so it should be celebrated.
Very true. Thank you. I mean, No is just so powerful to listen to. I mean, I listened to your music anyway because primarily because your voice is just angelic, but also you're my friend, and also your music is bomb now. Like, it's so different to everything that we did in high school, right? Like, that wasn't even...
God.
I don't even know how would you describe your sound? Electronic?
Yeah, I think I go with electronic singer-songwriter because I'm so passionate about songs themselves, like the way that they're built and written and stuff. But I really, when I produce, I love 30 layers of vocals.
Yeah.
So it's not the traditional pop sounding or folk or whatever. So I think it's like an electronic kind of like song lover kind of genre. I don't really know. I'm trying to figure it out.
I mean, paving the way by just creating your own creating space for your own sound, and I think that's awesome. And I actually didn't realize that you had done everything yourself. Like, that's
Yeah.
really cool. Did you do the
Thank
cover
you.
art for the album?
Yeah, I did all the art. The only
Oh
thing
my
I didn't
gosh.
do was my boyfriend helped me out with the mixing. His name's Emerson Adams Jackson. And then I had my friend Alexander Wright master. So,
Cool, cool,
which
cool.
is kind of smoothing out the whole sound. But apart from that, yeah, I did the writing, production, all the art, all the videos, all the photos my boyfriend took, and then I like edited and did a bunch of stuff too. Did a bunch of animations too, which was really, really fun. But it took a lot of my energy. I found like when I was done with the music and was onto the promotion phase, and I don't have like a manager or a team or anything. I did work with a publicist named Mavery, and she was wonderful. But a lot of the material and writing and about the content of it and asking people to listen to it, that was all done by me, and I found that really hard at times, like begging people to care about my experience. I'm looking forward to working with people in my next projects instead of doing it all myself. But I'm really glad I did it the way I did it.
I mean, now I guess if you've produced a whole album on your own, then you know that you can produce an album with other people. It can only be easier, surely.
Exactly, yeah. That's true. It's like now I know I can do it. So
I totally understand, and I love having conversations with creative women, because that just grinds my gear. Oh, grinds my gears is a bad saying. Floats my boat so much. Grinds my gears is like, that annoys me. That's not what I meant. It
no,
really floats my boat.
it really gets you going. Yeah.
Because I think, especially when it comes to creative business, because at the end of the day, I mean, probably very similar for you. Correct me if I'm wrong, though. I do what I do because I love it and I want to do it, but it is ideally supposed to also be my living eventually, and so that gets it gets difficult. And I don't think people really tell you what it's like to be a really young woman, like kind of in business, which is weird to say because I wouldn't call myself a businesswoman by any means, but it's definitely just not something that we were brought up, I don't think, to believe we could do. And so when I learn about people doing it, it's like just so empowering to know that it is actually possible.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with everything you're saying. I admire you and your business so much.
Well, thank
I
you.
think the thing that always stumps me is that it doesn't, the same thing you're saying, it doesn't feel like a business because it was never presented as like something that could be a skill for us, more so a hobby. And so like learning that you have to like, navigate asking, not asking people, saying that your work deserves like money or whatever, like payment for all the hours you put into it. It's just a really interesting experience. Yeah,
No,
I
it's
don't know,
very,
we have to
very
navigate.
true. Yeah, and I think people often expect we'll just do everything for no compensation. And obviously, yeah, for free. That's what I meant. And I will create art it's hard to like, I want to create art that will empower other women. And so I don't want to charge other women, but also if a company wants to collaborate with me, like, I'm not doing that for free. That's my right.
No. Yeah,
So you have to, it's hard to draw the line, I find.
finding your limitations, and at a certain point you've got to support yourself as a woman or a person that has faced a bunch of stuff to get where they are, to
Yes.
propel yourself forward. But yeah, I agree. I'm at that point where I'm like trying to figure out, because I only just now in a couple weeks get to start my year of work after graduating. So I have to figure out what I would charge, what I will do, what I want to do for people that I support for like free, and things that I don't want to. I don't know. It's hard. It's tricky.
Yes, it is. No, I understand. Did you write no for yourself, or do you think you wrote no for others?
I definitely wrote it for myself. I don't think there was really a part of me. It sounds selfish, but there wasn't really a part of me thinking about the impact it could have on others because it felt like too much pressure
Mm.
to, and like it brings on a whole uh, feeling of guilt or conversation with yourself of like assuming that I could empower all these people or what it was too much for me to frame it in that way of thinking. um so it was very much for myself because I felt like I couldn't make any more music until I had done this. Like it felt wrong to me to write love songs about my boyfriend or pop songs with friends about shopping or whatever it is if I hadn't had been honest with myself and actually like written this stuff, done it, gotten it out so I don't have to feel this weight anymore to like do it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
um and it wasn't until I started doing TikTok, right? This past year. And
Because
it was very
we're
fun. I love
hip.
it because we're hip. But I love it because I get to see so much art and so many small businesses doing their thing or musicians. And the day before my album came out fully, I put a video on there and it got some attention. And then the album, because of that, got some attention. So it was like the universe gave me a bunch of really good energy and perfect timing. Uh, where the album just like got a lot of listens and it was unexpected, and I kind of had not really had very many listeners before that point, and so was only really expecting people I knew and people that knew what happened to me to be listening or like engaging with it and the content. um and when a bunch of people that I'd never met before and a lot of people who were so sweet in giving me their like love and also their own stories, kind of just small ones in their comments or just mentioning how important the content was, it was only then that I kind of realized like, oh shit, this could actually like have an impact on other people because the music's good. I put a lot of work into it and the story is so sensitive and true. It hadn't really occurred to me that if people saw it or were forced to see it, that it would get, interaction. Um, and with that came a bunch of guilt. I was like, did I force these people to like, did I trigger them? Are they having to live through my pain? Am I caught? Like, I don't know. I couldn't deal with it for a while. And so I honestly haven't really like done anything with my album since then. But it was so wonderful and so like confronting at the same time to have this feeling of this music actually means something to more someone who isn't me. Like
Yeah.
I knew that it would mean a lot to me and it was really hard to not expect other people to like really, really care. So then I would like tell myself like it doesn't matter if people don't listen or if they don't care, I just need to do this. And it was hard when, the first few songs, there were like a lot of people that I lost in the year
Mm.
of after my sexual assault because you kind of change so quickly and you're on a different plane to everyone else, and that impacts your friendships and relationships and things. And when I didn't see those people who, as much as I'm flourishing without them in my life anymore, when I didn't see them interact with the content, it was really hard.
Yeah, I
So
bet.
there was just a lot of different things with it about expecting outer interaction and care and like impact.
Mm.
So I found it better when I just was selfish, I guess, and focused on my own healing and my own expectations for myself with the album.
It sounds like the at the end of the day as well, the album, yeah, was for you. Well, definitely was for you, and therefore might sound a bit harsh, but it's not your responsibility how other people react to it.
I ended up talking to like I obviously went through a lot of therapy after being assaulted. And when the album came out, I reached out to that same therapist and was like, I need to talk. This has gotten a lot more attention than I thought it would. And I just like need to not feel like I'm taking the responsibility on of all of these thousands of people. And like I support every single one of them and love every single one of them, but I was fearing that I was causing them pain constantly, and all this, I don't know, there was just unexpected feelings that came with the joy of letting it out into the, like, oh man, I feel so much better now that it's done and
Yes.
it's gone, and it's like, and I'm so proud of it, and I don't feel like I'm sitting in as much of the, like I'm always going to be recovering, but there was a real, while making that album and like expecting all of these things to come from it, when I let it go, it felt like I moved 10 steps forward or up the steps of recovery.
Wow.
If that makes sense.
Why do you think that releasing that album helped you recover so dramatically? Like, why do you think it was just getting the story out there, or do you think it was like when you released the album you could release the story from yourself?
It's a great question.
Yeah, but you might not know the answer, and that's okay.
It's really hard. Yeah. I think it's something to do with all of it. I don't know. I think it's really hard living in a society where people don't talk about being raped and assaulted.
Yeah, people don't talk about what happens to them, and why that's so interesting to me anyway. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, is because I literally had a conversation with a friend last night where we were talking about the last time we went to like a club, which is hilarious because anyone who knows me knows that I don't really go to the club, but I did go to the club in it must have been January of 2020. And I had a really close encounter with some really horrible people on the way out, and luckily I was totally fine, but it was very clearly like it was just one of those situations where you've got to run away, and it was really dangerous. And I was telling my friend that, and she said, oh yeah, like the same thing happened to me in February. And we were having a conversation then about how everybody, people don't talk about this, but I bet that if we did talk about it, it would be much clearer how much sexual violence occurs to varying degrees. To the degree that it occurred to me, it was very minor, which was wonderful, but I don't think that I don't know if it can ever be regarded as minor or mild, because sexual violence is sexual violence, like at the end of the day.
It's all like that sounds terrible. I'm so sorry that happened to you.
Oh, thank you.
It shouldn't be anything that anyone has to ever go through.
No, and it just angers me more than anything.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be.
It makes me mad too.
I know. Yes, I know. That's why your album, though I love it, makes me mad.
I know. I know. Me too.
The song that makes me the most mad is Black Hole, because it's speaking, and you can just hear. I want everyone to listen to it, actually, so I'm not gonna talk it up too much because I want you all to go and listen to it.
Thank you. Yeah, that one was a tough one. That I'll talk about that track later, but
it's a beautiful track as well, though, I must say. Like, I usually wouldn't listen to a speaking track, but I will listen to that one just in my regular playlist. And I love about your album, I love that it, like, you listen to every song. Oh, there's definitely a musical term for this. Each song transitions into the next song.
You said it perfectly. That's it.
Good. That's what. Yeah, I love that.
That's great. I spent a lot of time on that. I wanted it to be it's kind of what Bon Iver does, where the tracks aren't necessarily separated and they kind of blend. Not all of them, but some of them
blend.
Yes, they blend. Yeah. I just wanted to talk about people not talking about sexual assault and sexual violence. Number one, it's hard to talk about from the perspective of being assaulted because it hurts to to talk about, and it's no one's business to really hear, and it's not on us to educate other people on what sexual violence is or how to respond when someone tells you. um, and number two, because no one talks about it, no one knows how to respond. And from my perspective and from a lot of the conversations I had, I ended up being really, really hurt when I decided to talk and open up, and ended up being put into the position of an educator, or into the position of me saying over and over again, oh, I'm fine because I'm a superhero and amazing and I can handle it, when in fact I was not. And then that gave the wrong impression to that person or those people, and they felt that they could treat me in a certain way when in fact I was having to do, like, it's such a weird situation to be in that you'll never understand until it happens to you. But when you are having to, for in my case, I had to see my assaulter around my campus. They weren't allowed to contact me, but I had to see them for 3 months and still go to classes. And that's a really interesting position to be in, because when you see someone's face that's hurt you in that way, and then you have to go and sit and learn and not cry and throw up, it's hard, and you end up disassociating. And I had interviews and investigations where I was asked over and over and over again for the same details, and I was read his perspective and had to comment on his details. And then I had to keep going to hospitals to get shots to make sure I didn't have diseases, and had to go to therapy, had to explain to all my friends, had no family near me, and all of these things are happening. And so when you try and reach out to someone, a lot of the time you end up being hurt by how they talk to you.
Yeah. Like you
Does that
kind
make
of,
sense? Like,
yeah, it's kind of you needed I totally understand that. You need their reaction
yeah,
to either be a certain way, or you just need it to not be a certain way. Like there's a way that you need people
yeah,
not to react, and sometimes they react exactly like that.
that way, yeah. And it's hard because you can't just be like, well, it should, like, it's to solve the issue, people need to talk about it so that more people get um, exposed to it and then know how to respond. But then asking the victim or the survivor to explain, and, like, is something you can't do, because that's so hurtful to their progress, and it's not something you can ask of someone. So I don't know, the most hurt I was, like, obviously the situation was hard and will always be hard, but for me, I was taking proper steps when it came to that, what happened to me, to, like, heal, and that I felt like my experience recovering from that was really quite positive, but my experience interacting with people who were supposed to love me and trying to get them to understand was really, really negative.
I was going to say that everything that you just said, that entire monologue that I just put you through, thank you for saying all of that.
Mm-hmm.
That was, I could not have said that better myself. The it's so hard because I want everybody to talk about sexual violence, gendered violence, things like abortion, everything that happens to a lot of people that we don't speak about. I want people to talk about it, but it's not like, at the end of the day, more than anything, it's not the survivor's responsibility to talk about that at all. And
To educate people,
yeah, it's
really,
not, yeah.
that's and it sucks, like, that's yeah, it was the worst thing, and it still is the worst thing. It's just the worst thing to personally feel like all the time, like, I have to give people passes for how they respond or treat me. I don't know how to say what I'm saying, but it just, like, I constantly felt like I had to put on this face of being like fixed, you know,
Yeah.
to show that I'm doing the work, because I did it all myself again. Like, I had a lot of people that I wanted to depend on that really, really, really let me down. And every time they did, I went further and further into myself. And maybe I think a lot of it, I do have a lot of, there were a lot of things that I was doing that was encouraging that and allowing for that to happen, because I would do all my interviews myself, go to the hospital myself, like like go to court myself. Um, and because I did all of that, I would cry by myself. I would whatever, except for my mom. I would call my mom all the time. But when I did ask for things or did let people in, they didn't know all of that. They only knew the tip of the iceberg.
Mm-hmm.
So they treated it like it was just the tip of the iceberg. And there was this shit ton of ice below and pain. And so when they would respond or make decisions or actions based upon what they thought they knew and they thought it was the whole situation, it like wrecked me.
Yeah.
And I always felt this tremendous responsibility to like only put so much on them so I didn't affect their lives or cause them pain, or you know, it was and then I felt tremendous guilt when they would treat me in a bad way, and then I would um or they were, I don't know, treat me in a bad way and I would respond by being hurt, and then they were hurt, and then
Yeah.
it would be my fault, but it was not my fault. Like there were just so many situations. It's impossible to describe until you have to be friends with someone that's in this situation. And man, people really don't know how to. It's just terrible. It's the work, but I came across some of the best people too that
That's good.
were, you know, like I just, it took me further to find them, but people that would listen and not try and take whatever I would say and like up me, or
Makes
that
me
would
so
not
bad.
feel uncomfortable being like, I know, or like, you know, people that would be comfortable being like, hey, I have had something of a similar nature happen to me. I'd really like to talk to you about it. Is it going to hurt you?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, no, because you warned me. And of course, like I would love to give anything I can, but there are a lot of times where that wasn't the case.
I understand, and I think that anyone who has been assaulted, or anyone who's, say, best friend or close friend has been assaulted, like how you're saying, oh, I don't know how to word this, they'll know exactly what you mean. We all know exactly what you mean. People who haven't had that happen though, that's it probably is actually really confusing to hear what we're talking about. They'll probably be like, what what's all this cryptic language?
It's easy.
But if you experience it, you know exactly what you're talking about.
I think the portrayal of sexual violence and assault in like film and books and media is what perpetuates this idea that everyone knows without anyone talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And like I think all of those portrayals can't be farther than like further than the truth. And I found them so offensive and triggering every time. Like I can't watch anything but kids movies anymore.
Wow.
You know, because it's like, so it shows where it's like a real depiction and it's not like to dramatize it or romanticize the idea of it. I can handle, like I can handle the mention of trigger words and situations, but I can't handle like directors or writers that have never been through this that are putting in a scene. You can tell because the scene is like so flowery and like something that I don't know, like
I'd say fabricated. Yeah.
fabricated and like
yeah.
for the purpose of like, I don't know, like it's so weird to describe, but it's not genuine. And then there's other shows that I can watch where I'm like, okay, this is to like, it's to educate, it's to to expose people.
I mean, I always say, for example, you can fight me on this. I will die on a hill for this cause. Rape jokes are not funny. They're not funny. And
No.
the way that people put, can't judge too hard. I can't direct a film, but you can totally tell you're right when somebody has put a scene into a film or a show where they don't actually know what that experience is like. And it's very, I wouldn't even, the word that I was going to use is dramatized, but I don't think that's quite correct. Because it's not that the actual event happening is not dramatic. It's just that the way they do it.
No,
Flowery was a good word, yeah.
It's yeah, no, what do you say? I think the word romanticize because
Romanticize, yes, yes.
it's not like yeah, I don't know, it's not that they make it like a wonderful thing. That's not it at all. It's that the purpose of it is to like I don't make a character seem a certain like it's I don't know, it pisses me off. And it's triggering and it's more triggering to see it and watch it when it feels like it's from I don't want to like gender blame but when it or you know whatever but when it feels like it's from someone who is white and male and has a lot of money and is just putting it in to like oh we'll do that for that girl because then that'll make blah 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 you know
Yeah.
and it's like
yeah,
that's what my brain goes to which is not necessarily always the case and is something that I should really work on not feeling but I also in the moment can't help that
no.
but a lot of the time that is what it is
Mhm.
and it's just not okay like I don't know why people get passes for that sort of stuff.
I agree. And I'm so glad you brought this up because I really wanted to talk to you about the portrayal of it in the media, considering that you are in media, but you're in music media. Yeah, like
well, and that was my fear of what people would see my album as like this romanticization. I don't know how you say that word. As me romanticizing the idea of sexual assault and rape and violence, and um, I know that that's not what it could come across as because that's not what it is, and every part of it is genuine and has a lot of truth and time and intention to it. And I think that can be heard. And that's what my response was from the people that I didn't know hearing it, which was really, really nice. But yeah, that was a big fear of mine of coming across in that way. But I think when you put intention and it is your experience and it's genuine, I don't know how to.
yeah. I mean, your album, every song sounds very, very genuine. And I think the one that, I don't know, actually, maybe even just the ones that are really, what would you call short? Yeah, a short track.
Yeah.
Like No, the track No.
Yeah.
It feels nothing but genuine because it is just the same words over and over again. And at least for me, I'm not sure if this was your intention, but for me, that depicted or that felt like for me what happens in my head when something horrible that's not my fault has happened to me. You just repeat the same sentences in your head over and over and over again. And I think that's what makes, that's definitely what makes violence against people so unfair is that there was nothing that that there's nothing that we do to deserve that happening to us. And it's not fair to have somebody put an experience onto you, force you to have an experience. And I suppose that I'm sure in 20 years all of the hard experiences that everyone goes through, it's like, oh, I can see why that happened now. And now I'm like, I'm glad that I've grown from that. But that doesn't make the experience one bit easier.
No. Or it doesn't give the perpetrator, it doesn't give them like I don't know how to say this, but it doesn't give them an excuse just because in 20 years will be a better person. Like
No
I'm
way.
a better person now than I was before, but that does not mean that it was okay, you know?
Yeah, 100%. And it's
Yeah.
so all of the onus is put on you not to be assaulted. But it's not up to me. It's not up to me whether I am
No.
assaulted or not. If it was, I would never be.
Yeah,
That's the truth.
exactly. Yes. It's never a choice. That's the
No,
whole point.
ever. I really hope
No.
that I'm pretty sure everyone watching this will already think that. But if anyone is listening to this and thinking that it is ever a choice, that just know that please know
No.
it's not. It never is.
Yeah,
Never.
absolutely. It's interesting. I went to a Buddhist kind of like meeting because my family, him
Cool.
and his brother, they're practicing Buddhists, and it's so lovely.
What?
It's such a different experience too. Yeah, a different experience to the Catholic Church I was in and left growing up, but it was so great. It was like this meeting where everyone they read some article or something, and then they all talked about their own experience with. I think it was like searching for true happiness, not just like goal setting happiness, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But a woman talked about how there was this terrible person at work that was treating them terribly for ages and la 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 la. And now it's all working out where people are realizing that she did a bunch of terrible stuff. This other person did a bunch of terrible stuff. This woman was, doing the right thing and good. And it was benefiting her now because of all the patients she showed back then. And she was saying, the practice of Buddhism in their practice is that you sit and you chant morning and night with the, oh goodness, I'm going to butcher it, but the soccer, I can't remember the words, but in front of a scroll. I did it with them quite a few times, and it was beautiful. I'm not obviously to the point yet where I'm practicing all the time, but she said that she would sit and chant and pray for this other woman's happiness, this woman who had done her wrong. And it wasn't because she thought that that other person was a wonderful human or that she wasn't mad at them, but she felt she was stopping her own growth and her own journey to happiness by allowing herself to continue being mad and all those things. And so by asking for this other person's happiness or praying for this other person's happiness, it means that they will no longer treat people the way they treated her. They will realize their mistakes, they will have growth, and I won't have to like feel rooted in this other person's treatment of her, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does. Yeah. And that's so far out. That's brave of that woman.
Oh yeah. I
think,
haven't even contemplated doing anything like that.
Yeah.
I'm not ready. I've come to that realization at the moment. It may change, but that
Yeah.
I don't want to forgive a bunch of people, not even just this one person, but all the people that hurt me, and that like I don't have to, because I have other people and I don't wish them any hate or ill will, but I don't want to invite it back into my life.
Yeah.
I just want to, keep separated and in my little lane and in my little river, swimming with the stream, and not trying to like pick up all the dirty rocks on the side and like clean them up so that my river's complete, like I don't know, whatever.
Oh, that is a good analogy. That's a great analogy. I might use that. And
yeah, go for it.
No, thank you. It's not it's a very I'm not a therapist, but that sounds really fucking healthy. That sounds really
so.
healthy.
And I think you just, whenever you're ready for whatever is the point, there's no set rule book for anyone for how to get over this.
Yeah.
And you could take the millions and billions of victims and stand them all next to each other and you couldn't tell one of them that they've done anything wrong in recovering or
No.
with their decisions after being assaulted, or hurt or harassed.
I mean, it only go into as much detail as you would like to, but I think the massive, 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 no secret problem with the system is that it's on the victim or survivor to prove what happened to them.
Yeah.
And I am just of the impression that we should believe people if they say something like that happens to them, unless there are some seriously extenuating circumstances, which are statistically so very rare that they honestly don't even cross my mind. If someone tells me that they were assaulted, I literally believe them straight away. And it just angers me so much that the system is the way that it is. Did you find there was anything in the US system in particular that was that struck you as different, or do you think it's might be the same? Like, do you have any idea? Is it the same in Australia and America? Or is it completely different? I mean, I wouldn't expect you to know, but
I don't really know. I kind of expect them to be pretty similar,
okay.
Because Australia and America are pretty similar.
Yeah.
I expect it to be just as difficult in both places. I think there are definitely probably worse places to be, where there would be even less belief of your experience or care, rather. So in a way, I feel lucky, and I feel lucky for my privilege in the fact that I felt so confident in doing something about it from the get-go.
Yeah.
And I recognize that's partially my character, but is majorly and predominantly because I came from a beautiful, loving, trusting family that always had food and always had a roof and always believed me and had trust in me and taught me what my worth was and always supported me. So, and I had friends like that, and I grew up believing that I deserved a certain amount and that I wouldn't stand for a certain amount of things, or I just wouldn't stand for violence against me, and I never really doubted that what happened to me happened, which is great.
That's fucking awesome.
Terrible.
Yeah,
but
awesome is a negative and positive word. Yeah.
Yeah, yes, but because of that, it took a lot of shit from me to do a lot. The system, it's hard because where I was in Boston, there was some incredible resources that they provided for me, but that I never would have gotten if I never went to the hospital, which is something that people don't know. Like, you have 72 hours to get to the hospital for them to give you a thing called a rape kit, where they, look for evidence all over you. They take care of you. They write down everything you say. They look at everywhere that you said something's happened, and they put it in a box. They seal it for 15 years. If you start an investigation through a court system, they take that out and use it as evidence. And it was covered by the state of Massachusetts, which is great. And they also gave me, it should be, but I know that it's not like that everywhere, but that was great for me because that was $1.5 grand that I would have had to pay. Yeah. So, and then they give you the name of lawyers, of counselors, of support groups, all that sort of stuff, which is, they give you like 30 pamphlets, which I think I still have because hard to let go of. But of the same token, I didn't feel like I could actually go to the police. I never did until 9 months later, which is fine. You can still go to the police for 15 years. But like, why didn't I? And then when I did, I went through a whole second investigation because the predominant investigation I went through was through my school,
Okay.
um, where I did bunches of interviews, and I was trying to get this person expelled, and it happened because that's the repercussions for doing something like this. But I went to the police. I went to get a restraining order in the courts,
Mhm.
which was terrifying and sucked and was maybe one of the worst things I've ever had to do, but I was granted one. But even then, you could tell it was on the victim. I had to go there and speak for myself
Yeah.
and get all these things. And I was crying in front of a judge and sweating. And I was there alone because someone was supposed to come with me and then they bailed. And then I walked right over to the police and I told them what happened. And then it took them 6 months to get me in the room with the DA's office. I had investigations with the police where they asked me a bunch of stuff. There was this man that was like stumbling over his words because he didn't know what to ask. And, I felt bad for having to tell him what happened. And it's like super weird.
And it's like, I shouldn't have to feel that.
Yeah. A lot of people have a lot of care when they're talking to you, but you still have to talk about it and they have to ask you questions that make it seem like they think that you're lying or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I went to the DA's office to decide if I wanted to. I had another interview with them. The state would have taken on my case, but it could have taken 5 or 7 years. They were like, look, this is the truth of it. You're going to have your whole life exposed in a courtroom. You're going to be asked so much stuff. All your medical records will be out there. All of your counseling will be out there. It'll be 5 years of your life. And you're on a visa. You might have to go back to Australia, and then whenever could happen, you could come back here and then you'll have to do it then. And I was lucky enough to be safe.
Yeah.
And I felt like that would take away from my life. And so I decided not to do it. Which doesn't mean that I don't think that maybe I should have gotten the thing at the end of court, but the system is you have to go through shit to get any sort of, like
Recognition, even.
well,
Or
recognition or just
justice.
even
Yeah.
safety, justice, anything. Like what 5 years and people asking me things about my life in 3 separate different court things. Like it's not something that you want to do. So of course it's on the victim.
And they cross-reference
and
you in court as well. Like I've sat in court,
exactly.
just watching, luckily. Not to bash defense lawyers, but there is a serious systematic practice of cross-referencing people who are brave enough to go to court. It is brave to go to court. And I would also say it's really brave to not go to court too, if you just like can't do it. And so there's so much like, oh, why, like you said, why didn't I go to the police? It took you 9 months. That's such an interesting point, because so what happened to me, I would consider it a lot less traumatic than what happened to you. I think that's just a factor, at least for me. That's a fact. I've been through worse things in my life than what happened to me last January, even though that was really fucked up. That still took me, I think that took me about a week to go to the police. And my boyfriend ended up not convincing me, but being like, I think you should go to the police because something probably needs to be done about like the people who were standing in that alleyway waiting for a poor victim to walk past. And I ended up doing that because I decided that it would be I couldn't deal if I hadn't reported something and those people ended up doing something that could have possibly been prevented. It's not on me to do that, but I decided that I had to go and talk to them about it. So if we're talking about the variations, then the variation of assault that you had to endure, I am not even surprised it took you 9 months to go to the police. Like, far out.
It's just hard to decide on and confront whether you're ready for it. and then it ends up being not fruitless because it's in the system. So if it were to, if I had ever seen any retaliation from my perpetrator, then it would be there, and
Yeah.
you know, but yeah, it is hard.
Yeah, and it's definitely in the media. The TV shows are like, go to the police and then you'll be fine. And it's like,
And
oh my
that's not
God,
it.
that's not true.
It doesn't solve anything. It
Yeah.
doesn't solve anything at all.
This conversation, I just think is so important. And thank you for sharing everything that you have so far. And thank you for listening to me share just a just something that I decided to bring up, which I didn't plan to talk about before. But don't we all have mental breakdowns over the internet? That's the place that you have a mental breakdown nowadays. So thank you for like hearing me as well.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
I would love to ask you a couple more questions that are probably shorter answers. If they're not, that's also okay. But is
Yeah.
there a song on the album that sticks out to you the most of sharing your experience? Like, is there one to you that you're like, that really encompasses what I want people to take from hearing my story?
I think the last one, which was an iPhone voice memo.
Cool.
I didn't want to. I recorded it the day that I wrote it, which was, I think, the day that I found out my perpetrator was expelled.
Wow.
And it,
powerful day.
yeah, that's why I didn't want to re-record it.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound as good as the other tracks, but the song is really good. I wrote it because I went to my counselor and I said that I hated him for the first time, maybe one of the last times, but she then told me that it's okay. And it's okay to hate him, and it's okay to disassociate. It's okay to, cry. It's okay to not cry, all of these different things. And it was the first time I was like, yeah, like I am surviving. I'm doing the best I can. Right now, I've found out that I hate him, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And I wrote that song. So I think that one's the most important. Yeah.
That one's beautiful as well, and that one
Thank you.
really spoke to me without me getting too mushy. I don't want to cry on my own podcast, but it really spoke to me. What does surviving mean to you?
Well, I have it tattooed on my body.
No
I got
way.
It tattooed. Yeah, I got it tattooed on the year anniversary of my assault.
Yeah.
And I really like the word because I did survive and I rocked it. And
yeah,
it's definitely something that I don't think anyone should ever expect anyone to survive. I think it's a weird thing to say, but I think the way that I view it is that I would not hold any resentment towards someone who decided that they couldn't survive something like this, because it is so hard. And I think that anyone that has made that choice, they're survivors too. They just chose a different path. But it's just, I am awesome. And yeah, I don't have any resentment towards that term. I love it.
That's awesome.
Because it's true.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It is so true. And I just the reason I just felt like I really wanted to speak with you is, I mean, I wanted to speak with you even if I wasn't recording something. I'm so happy to have this conversation anyway.
I know.
But I just really admire your bravery in talking about it and writing about it. And if you had decided to never speak about it, I also actually think that would be super brave too. I just really,
absolutely.
yeah.
I think everyone is brave. There's no right way to do it. But thank you for saying that, because it does mean a lot.
You're welcome. That's good to hear. the what I'm really happy that I'll be really happy if you have an answer to this is, how are you regaining your strength and your power, or how have you regained it? Because I'm sure you've regained a lot already, but you might be still on a journey.
I think, I don't know. I don't think about it as much anymore. Recently, I have been, just because a few events that have been putting me back there. But I have a partner that I love and that I know loves me, and that helped me to see a bunch of stuff about, like, I was seeing a bunch of stuff myself, but I was also I was in it. So 10 months after, when I found this perfect person who listened and who loved me properly, if that makes sense, who didn't use anything against me or whatever. He's amazing. It helped me to be like, oh yeah, I don't deserve to be treated like that, so I'm just gonna let go of all those things that are making me feel that way. And that felt pretty powerful.
What a man.
I think I've been, yeah, he's amazing. Can't wait for you to meet him.
Neither.
I think I've been alone for quite a while, because I don't have my family over here. The pandemic obviously took a lot of things away, and I think I'm pretty good at that too. Like, I when I'm sad, I'll let myself feel it, and when I'm feeling motivated, I'll get up and make music, and I'll eat good food. You've been in my head lately. I've been cooking a lot of vegetarian food.
Thank you.
Trying to cut down and
love
for the
that.
planet.
Love
Yeah.
that.
So that's been good.
So is it a lot of the little things?
I think now it is. It used to be big things all the time, and it used to be little things all the time. It was like every day was conscious effort, and now it's conscious effort when I remember, because I'm not in the same place. I'm not surrounded by people that were there and that treated me badly. Surrounding it, I don't have to see that person. It's a year and a half on for me, which in terms of it isn't that long, but I'm in a new city. I've got some really lovely people around me. I've got I get to work now in a couple weeks. So I get to do stuff that I've actually been studying for. So I don't really think about it all the time. It doesn't feel like it's there, Obviously it's governing my actions because I'm a different human. But I think the space I gave myself in the very early day, this whole time, has given me such power, because I took the time to be like, this is fucked from the very beginning. And I took myself places I needed to go. I made sure that I went to counseling. I made sure I told my mother the day after. I made sure I did all these things because they felt right. I wasn't forcing myself to, but it set me up in a really good way to be able to go through a fuck ton of shit and then get to this point now where I feel like it's part of me, but I'm not really looking at it all the time, because I'm looking at all this other stuff that genuinely is what I'm looking at. I'm not trying to not look at something else, if that makes sense.
I love that, and I love that it does make sense. You don't have to force yourself to look away. It's just not what you're focused on right now. By the sounds of things. And I love so much that it doesn't have to control your life at all times. And if it does, then if anyone listening, if it is controlling your life, then that's also okay, and it will. Healing is so slow. But healing is a journey.
Literally take forever. I think it's that river that you're talking about,
Yeah, your amazing
having
analogy.
something. Well, having an event happen is like a bunch of rocks coming up, and you can't go anywhere, and they're all dirty and muddy, and so everything turns to shit.
Yeah.
But healing is like taking them off one at a time, and then slowly your stream
Yeah.
will happen again, and it'll clear out. But you'll always have little rocks that will remind you and make you, it's just going to be there forever. It's just going to be more gradual, which is nice.
That is beautiful. Well, unless there's anything else you'd like to add, which please go ahead if there is. I only have one more question for you, and it's actually a little bit unrelated, but I think you'll still come up with an answer.
Perfect.
The question that I ask everyone is, what is one thing that you wish when you were growing up you had known about your body that you know now?
Known about my body.
Yeah. Like
It's a great
anything
question.
with regard to your body, doesn't have to be like
Anything.
medical. Yeah.
No. It's a great question. Plenty. Skincare when I was
Ooh.
growing up. That's one thing, but it's not very important. I also wish I
It
knew
is important.
It is important, but not the one I want to say. I wish I knew the effects of caffeine, because I have with my breasts, I have like these little fibrostic, I don't know the name, but little
Yeah.
lumps
No
that
way.
get yeah, I found out only in October. And caffeine makes them like they hurt sometimes, and I couldn't figure out why. It comes from like more exercise and caffeine. So I've been cutting off decaf and making sure that if they start hurting, that I'll wear like bras to bed and stuff,
What the
and
hell?
it kicks it in the butt. Yeah, they're not bad, but if you, I guess if they get really bad, it makes your chances of cancer worse. So I don't know that. I wish I'd known that, and also that not all health things are bad. Your body can get over stuff.
Yeah.
I don't need to take ibuprofen the minute or whatever, or if I have something wrong with my health, there are steps to take.
Damn, that's a good one, actually. Yes.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry to hear about I don't know what you'd call them, fibrosis.
I think they're called fibrosis.
Like in the uterus, they're called a fibroid. So like, it might be called a fibroid. Yeah.
It's something, she wrote it down on a piece of paper somewhere. I can look it up.
I have one of them in my uterus, and it does not cause me any trouble at the moment though, because it's so small. So that's good. But
that's good.
You can in your uterus, they can grow to be the size of a full-term pregnancy. So it can get really
watching out.
Yeah, so make sure if you're like, I can't possibly be pregnant, but you look pregnant, go get it checked out. That could be why. Thank you for talking.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Your everything. Thank you for talking about everything. And I really just, even though again, this isn't for other people, this is for you, I really hope that a few people listening to this will take pride and the generosity that you've offered and be helped to be healed just by listening to this conversation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes.
I love you, and I'll leave everything in the show notes with regard to where everyone can find you and where everyone could listen to your music and pre-save your songs.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you everyone for listening.